All right. There's a Sikha from Rebbe, very early on, the first year of Tovshin Yud. The Sikha that the Rebbe said in Tovshin Yud, within the year of the Avelis. And in those days, it wasn't really official that the Rebbe was Rebbe. They were Fabrenk, like every time he used to Fabrenk. And people recorded the Sikhas. And that Sikha is on this Parsha. Very, very interesting, very profound Sikha. And it is on the din of Ribis. Ribis? Ribis means to get interest on a loan. It's called Ribis. And in the Torah, Ribis is a very serious offense. It speaks very strictly about both taking Ribis and giving Ribis. There's a law on the Mava, on the lender, that he is not allowed to take Ribis. And there is also a law on the borrower that he should not give Ribis. Ribis is a prohibition, a loisasa. A negative command is called a law. And the Medrash, the Gemara brings down from the Gemara, that the Gemara says that somebody who takes Ribis will not get up at his amazing. Such expressions, really very serious things. What is, the Rebbe explains over there very briefly, and we want to discuss it. What is so serious? What's the offense in Ribis?
I thought it was 2 years ago. I thought it was yesterday at the other class.
You thought it was yesterday? Okay. Come, you're welcome to come today. Oh, there's always room.
She was getting so popular.
Always room. All right. So you shouldn't miss. We're talking about Ribis. You know what Ribis is? Interest, taking interest on a loan, and the Torah prohibits it, and the Gemara says very serious consequences, very serious, how serious the offense of Ribis is. And we want to discuss it. It's based on the Sikha from Reb. And as always, as we point out, that primarily what we are looking for is what this tells us about ourselves, and in terms of our own avoidance, our own growth, our own development, and our own attitude to life, and so forth. So the Rebbe explains that the Ribis consists of the fact that a person has money. This money he earned because he worked hard, whatever he earned this money. And then he lends it to someone else. But the din is that when a person lends money, lending money is different than lending an object. If you lend somebody your car, then he returns to you the very same car that he took from you. He doesn't give you a different car. In other words, the car is yours while he is using it, it's still yours. He's using your car. And he's responsible to restore it to you. When you lend money, the Gemara says, milva lohitzoa nitna. Milva, money is not given to be kept in storage. Milva money is given to be spent. So you're not going to get the same money back. You're going to get the equivalent value back. Huh?
When you loan it, it's given to be...
I'm sorry?
You mean when you, on the loan, it's given to be spent?
On the loan, I'm talking about the loan. Yeah, you're lending somebody money, and he owes you $100, but he doesn't owe you these $100, he owes you $100. So this money that you gave him becomes his. That's the halach. But he owes you. There's a very, very profound thought along with this. I'm just going to mention it. It's not the time to elaborate on it. That the Gemara says that priyas bal choiv mitzvah, to pay up a loan is a mitzvah. To return a borrowed article is not a question of a mitzvah. It's not yours. It belongs to the other person. But to pay up a loan is a mitzvah. But what does it mean it's a mitzvah? Because the money that you hold is not his. Because it became yours when he lent it to you. And you can spend it and do anything else. But then you're obligated, the Torah obligates you to pay him up. So this is, so to speak, a Torah obligation. Otherwise, there is nothing in your possession that belongs to the other person. You took the $100, you spent it. Nothing in your possession is his. But you're obligated to pay him up because the Torah obligates you. So therefore, what happens with this ribis? At the time when you gave him the money, it was your money. The minute you gave it to him, it became his. Now, you are claiming and you're drawing benefit, interest on the money, on an act that was done yesterday. It's no longer your money. You're collecting interest not on your money, on the money that was yesterday yours. Because it was yours yesterday, on that basis you're collecting interest. Not on something that you're currently doing. This is connected in terms of mitzvahs in general. When we do a mitzvah, it says that when a Yid does a mitzvah, he brings about that Hashem should also do the same mitzvah. Right? Whenever a Yid does a mitzvah, Hashem does a mitzvah, the same mitzvah in counterpart. What is the significance of that? The significance of that is that a mitzvah is a constant creation. Not that you got a mitzvah yesterday and now it's an old thing. Every time that you do the mitzvah, you're creating a new thing. Not on the basis of yesterday or the day before. In contrast to ribis, this is where the ribis comes in. In contrast to ribis, where ribis you're getting benefit for something that you did yesterday, not for something that you're doing now.
What does it mean you did it yesterday?
You gave him the money yesterday, and today you're collecting interest. Let's take a very simple analogy. You learn alphabets, and then you learn how to read. And then you learn Ashrei. Everybody knows Ashrei by heart, right? Ashrei. You learn Ashrei by heart. Now you can say Ashrei effortlessly. You say Ashrei, you not even aware that you said it. Okay? So on what basis, what is the value of this act? This act actually was accomplished a year ago. the time when you struggled with it, a time when you worked for it, and when you learned it. So that's when you really gained, gained the reward for it. Then you're really working. Now you're just saying it, something that just comes automatically. And you're not really doing anything. That's what there's a posuk. There's a posuk in Tanakh, what it says, that the Novi reprimands. You know what reprimands means? Reprimands, musars. He gives musar. Yidden for doing mitzvahs in a manner of mitzvahs hanoshim melumoda. Mitzvah hanoshim melumoda means out of habit. You're not even challenged by it. You don't even feel what you're doing. You're just doing it because you're used to doing it. So this mitzvah hanoshim melumoda, this is like ribis. You're claiming reward for the fact that 2 years ago you had to learn how to do this. But now you're not even aware that you're doing it. So what kind of mitzvah is it? And this is what the Gemara said, the Rebbe explains, that somebody who collects interest, ribis, will not get up at his amazing. It's a very, very sharp statement. That's what the Gemara says. What is the connection? The connection is like this. What is Tchiyas HaMeisim? Tchiyas HaMeisim is the time when the whole world, the physical world, will have been completely purified. You understand what that means? The physical world will have been permeated completely through and through with mitzvahs, with holiness. And therefore the neshamas can come back into the physical world. And the physical world will not interfere with the neshama. And the body will be able to accept the neshama at a much higher level than it is now. How is this accomplished? By purifying the world. How is purifying the world accomplished? By doing mitzvahs. But if somebody is doing mitzvahs without effort, he's not really confronted by it, he's not really challenged by it, then he is not involved in purifying the world. If he's not involved in purifying the world, then he doesn't get to benefit from the restoration, from Tchiyas HaMeisim. I don't mean to scare anyone. I just want to understand the concept over here. It's so blatant, so to speak, and so straight into your face, that if you don't make an effort to accomplish through your acts, then even if you do the right thing, but you're not really trying to break through, to transform anything, to accomplish anything. It's all on the basis of what you have accomplished a year ago, 2 years ago, or 10 years ago. And now you're just following through. It's like somebody earning money. And I have it now, the money, because I have it, because I gave it to him yesterday, therefore I should benefit from it. This is the whole principle of ribis. That the Gemara, the Torah, prohibits ribis very, very strictly. And the reason for that, based on the Rebbe's explanation in that Sikh, is that our job in this world, what are we doing here? What is our mission? Our mission is to transform, to bring the world to a higher level, to purify the world, to make the world a more spiritual and more godly place. And that is accomplished through effort. Like we spoke in the past, many times, that when somebody is trying to learn a piece of Gemara, and he finds it difficult, it's not entering his mind, he can't understand it. He has to know that the reason he can't understand it is that there's a klipa that doesn't allow him to understand. He has to, if he tries harder, he opens up his mind, he'll be able to understand it. And this trying harder, this is the whole purpose of it. This trying harder, this is what is the ultimate accomplishment. I mentioned to you the story many times, and I'll mention it again, the story of the Bes Yosef and the Arizal. Many of you heard it many times from me already. You heard the Bes Yosef. The Bes Yosef was the author of the Shulchan Aruch. The original Shulchan Aruch is the Shulchan Aruch and Bes Yosef, the big Shulchan Aruch. And the Bes Yosef was, I don't have to tell you, was a very big lamdan. And you learn with tremendous diligence. In his city, where Bes Yosef lived, in Tzfas, there was a Rebbe. Who was the Rebbe in Tzfas? The Arizal. So they were contemporaries. The Arizal and the Bes Yosef were contemporaries. So the Bes Yosef, one time, was learning a Tosfos. And he had a very difficult question, a different part in the kasha in the Tosfos. And you could not break through the kasha. You could not come up to the right shot in the Tosfos. And you labored over it for many hours. Until finally he came to the Pirush, to the explanation of the Tosfos. And he was able to understand it. After that, he went to Beis Medrash. In the shul where many other people were sitting and learning and all that. And he came to Beis Medrash, and what happens there in Beis Medrash? He sees two people sitting and learning exactly that Gemara, exactly that Tosfos that he just finished laboring on. So he was interested to see how these people will learn the Tosfos, how they will explain it to themselves. And so he listened in, and what did he hear? That they were learning the Tosfos exactly according to the explanation that he came up with after many, many hours of labor. And they just went straight through it. So he didn't begrudge them their success, but he couldn't understand. He was taken aback. What's going on? So he went to the Arizal. He told him the story, and he asked the Arizal to explain to him what happened over here. Because the Bes Yosef knew that this is not a simple story. So Arizal explained to him the following. He said that this Pirush that you came up with was in fact concealed. It was hidden, and it could not be revealed in the world. You, with your labor, was able to break through the concealment, the obstacle, and you were able to reveal and bring it into the world. Once you accomplished that, then it became common property. Anybody can, it's available to everyone. That's why these two young men were sitting and learning, and they learned the Pirush that you brought down into the world. And you're learning it, and your labor has brought it down into the world and made it available to everybody. This is a classic story that tells us what is the significance, what happens when a Yid labors, works hard on the mitzvah, on learning. I recall an episode that a certain Rav told me. This Rav was not a Lubavitcher, but he had Lubavitcher Tam. He knew what Mesiras Nefesh is. So he was a Rav in a certain town, someplace in Midwest, and there was no school over there, no yeshiva. The closest yeshiva, the closest place for his children to go to was very far. He had to drive hours, an hour and a half, 2 hours back and forth every day. And he had other duties as a Rav. It's very, very, very difficult. So what are you going to do? You're going to send your children to public school? I mean, that's suicide, that's murder. So that's what he did. He arranged, he took his children day in, day out, day in, day out. and he had kids at home. His wife he didn't have any substitutes, and he had a lot of work. He mamash worked 25 hours a day. Didn't have a moment to rest. He went against me beyond his koiches. And this is how he told me the story. So he said, one time, I was driving the kids to school. I was exhausted, totally exhausted. Finally came to school. I deposited the children in school, and I fainted. I simply fainted. I was completely out of strength. And he says, after that moment, after that faint, I knew that this whole thing was broken through. I'm not gonna have the same difficulty anymore. I knew that I broke it through. And it happened. Soon after, there were other people who were interested, and they made a carpool. Many people were driving, and the whole thing was no longer such a challenge. In other words, when things are difficult, there's accomplishment involved. And this accomplishment is something which is universal. It's not just for yourself. There is something that you break through in the entire world. This piece of Gemara that you're learning and you're having a real difficulty in understanding. Yesterday somebody else learned it, and then somebody else learned it. The time it came to you, and it's still difficult, that means that you have to break through another aspect of it. Somebody who has your approach to learning. And if you break it through, that will help to the next guy. This is how the Rebbe has set up our world. And this is the significance of our labors, of our effort. On the other hand, if somebody says, oh, I already know it, let me just say it over, then you are basing yourself on effort that you did a year ago. Then you're accomplishing nothing with your duty, with your work. This is claiming benefit on akribis, claiming benefit on something that was done the day before. There's an interesting principle that the Rebbe, our Rebbe, told us. We know that the Rebbe himself did that, and he always used to emphasize that the Friedrich Rebbe always did that. What was that? The Rebbe once said that the Friedrich Rebbe had a phenomenal memory. And yet, he always davened from the Siddur. Whether it is davening or benching or anything, always from the Siddur. The Rebbe never explained, really, in words at least from Western I heard, why, what's the significance. But the Rebbe made an emphasis that our Rebbe himself always used to take a Siddur. Even for Al HaMichyo, when the Rebbe verbringt, Al HaMichyo, you take a Siddur. Everything is from the Siddur. Let us think about this. You know it by heart. And now, when you were saying these words now, from memory, you're not, again, working on reading the words. You're saying what you already did yesterday. So you're not really creating anything. You're not really doing anything. You're just repeating what you did yesterday. If you open a Siddur, even though you know it and it's easy for you to read, but nevertheless you're reading the words as they are shown to you in the Siddur. So you are doing a job. You're acting, you're working. So then you're really accomplishing something. You're creating something new. You're reading it from the Siddur. But if you're reading it from memory, then you're not doing anything. Essentially, in terms of creating. This is tantamount to the union of Ribis. Right? Excuse me?
Can you explain what was the Sefer again? The reading from the mind, the reading from the Sefer again?
Okay. When you have something by heart, right? You know it by heart. So now you are saying it because you're recalling it from what you heard by heart. How did it become? When did you commit it to memory? Whatever it is, yesterday, a week ago, when a time when you read it 100 times, and eventually it registered in your memory. Now you're just recalling it. You're not reading it again. You're not doing the effort of reading these words. When you look and you see that even if though you know the word, but Baruch, Kometz Beis is a bo, you're reading the word. You're actually creating the reading element. So even though you know it, but you're reading it from the written book, and you're translating what you're reading into words. So you're creating something. But if you're bringing that from memory, so you're basing it on what you did yesterday or a year ago. You understand?
The way you memorized it.
But you memorized it. Now you're not creating anything.
You're not creating the unities in the letters.
Right, that's right. You're not reading it. So then you're not really doing your avodah. This is just occurred to me. It doesn't say in the Sikha. It just occurred to me that the Rebbe always insisted on saying everything from the Siddur. And the Rebbe said clearly, the Friedrich Rebbe always read from the Siddur, and the Friedrich Rebbe had a phenomenal memory. He was able, the Friedrich Rebbe knew all Mishnayos when he was a little child. I'm sure you read it in the memoirs. He was to Chazan Mishnayos by heart from early childhood on. And still read it in Siddur because that's part of our way. So coming back to us, although we already touched upon it, I just wanted to bring out how significant this is. It's compared to the union of Ribis. We all are looking for ways to do things that things should be easy, should be automatic. And this union of Ribis, this Sikha, brings out clearly the big error, the fallacy of this, the mistake behind it. When you are reading and you're doing a reading or learning, you're looking for the easy way out. Then what you are doing is, see, in doing a mitzvah, we all have, let's say, we have to daven every day in the morning. Whatever mitzvahs we have to do. Like I mentioned to you before, that we as a nation were reprimanded by the Novi by doing mitzvahs anoshim ulumodo, doing mitzvahs by rote, by habit. And he says very strict things about it. Now, you can do a mitzvah just to be rid of it. I have a duty, I have an obligation. Let me get rid of the obligation. Nobody can say, I didn't do it, I did it. But that's not the point. Everybody put on tefillin yesterday. Why do we need to put on tefillin today? I already accomplished it. I did it yesterday. What's the point? Why do you need to put on today? What's the answer? That every time I put on tefillin, I'm accomplishing the same thing in a higher and a deeper way. I'm not repeating what I did yesterday. I told you the story of Rashi. It was repeated in my class also. That Rashi, everybody knows Rashi, right? One of the phenomenal things of Rashi, the special qualities in Rashi, besides that Rashi gave us a tremendous pirush on the Chumash and Tanakh and Gemara. He opened up the whole Torah to everyone, for all generations, for 1,000 years. But in addition to that, he did it in a very beautiful way. Nobody was able to match it. Very brief and clear and to the point. Like when you're learning Gemara with Rashi, those who are familiar with Gemara with Rashi, you can learn the Gemara with Rashi and not even notice that you've learned the Rashi. Because the Rashi fits right into the Gemara. The Rashi just adds one little word and everything goes, it's like opening up, giving you the key and it goes weiter. And then when you need the key again, the Rashi puts in the key right in the right place and lets you go again. He fit everything exactly into it. So people asked Rashi, how did he accomplish to write so perfectly, to fit it in with such brevity? What brevity means? Brief, very short and clear. And so Rashi answered, he said that the way I do the Pirush is, I write the Pirush, let's say Monday afternoon write the Pirush from learning that day, and then I put it away, and then Tuesday morning I review what I wrote. After sleeping over, I review what I wrote. And this review, then I'm coming afresh, from a new perspective, afresh, and then I'm able to cut out many, many lines of what I wrote. And I find that sometimes one word can replace 10 words. And that's how it works. In other words, every time that we do something, it seems like we're doing the same thing, we're never doing the same thing. We're recreating it, and this recreation it has the benefit for the whole world and for ourselves. There's no question about it. The Gemara says, you learned in Tanya, that in the time of the Gemara, it was common practice to review everything that we learned. How many times? 100 times. 100 times. And then the Gemara says that if somebody reviews what he learned 101 times, he is way above everything. What do you need to review 100 times already? Everything is just become monotonous. It's never monotonous. Because every time you start reviewing, you start from scratch, as if you never learned it before. And you start translating everything, trying to understand as if this is something new. And you know something? Be surprised. Every time you do that, you'll see something that you didn't see before. There's no question about it. You'll see something that you didn't see before. The Gemara says, Ein beis ha-medrash bloi chidush. There's no such thing as coming to this medrash and learning something and not learning something new. Even though you already learned it 100 times. There's no such thing as not learning something new. There's always something new. And I want to try very briefly to explain this phenomenon. How come there is something new every time you learn? Where is it coming from? Where is this novelty coming from? There is a phenomenon in our own experience that every one of us experiences. Where does it move? You're smiling. You're anticipating. You know? What is it? What? Everyone experiences. I never experienced Chochmah. Maybe you don't know. Can't say Chochmah that everybody. How can I claim that everybody understands? If you look outside now, it's a beautiful day, right? It's a beautiful day. And you enjoy looking at it. Can you recall how many times in your life you've seen a day like this? Many times, right? So what's the big deal? You saw it already. But every time you see it, it's a new miracle. It's a new experience. It tells you something new. It tells you something about the beauty of the world, about the beauty of life, about the greatness of the Creator. It tells you something. It depends how every person looks at things. And the more you see it, the deeper and more significant is the message of that very simple physical phenomenon. Because something that is true and real never repeats itself exactly, never repeats itself. It is always something new. It always has a new message. The same is true in every time you do a mitzvah, every time you put on tefillin, every time Shabbos comes, every time you daven, every time you open up a sefer, every time you say Kol Metzalefah. Why? Because everything that we have, certainly in Torah mitzvahs, but really not only in Torah mitzvahs, everything that we experience even in the world, like I said, this beautiful day. Let us say, we have all kinds of different experiences. Let us examine our own thinking. In the world today, and it's, the world today is a world of scientists that believe they really understand the world. They really know what the world is about. Not only do they know what the world is about, they know how it got created, they know the Big Bang, they know exactly how everything came about. And when they begin to examine the world as you see it, and say, hey, there's nothing to it. It's just the sun shining, and this is reflecting from this, reflecting from that. There's nothing to it. And the whole beauty and richness of life of the world is lost. There's nothing to it. In other words, if we should actually look at the world as a physical phenomenon, they're right, there's nothing to it. Why are we so taken up by it? And when we look at beautiful spring days, I say, oh wow, it's so beautiful. It is because we recognize that this is not just a physical phenomenon. This is a creation. It's a godly creation. There's a godly message in this. There's life in it. The same is true regarding anything that we do, whether it's normal living, eating, sleeping, and so forth, or learning, or doing a mitzvah. Everything that we do, and every time that we do it, every time that we repeat it, is coming from a new creation. Is coming from a new source. And this is what gives it impetus, gives it excitement, gives it real life, and this is what we're accomplishing. There is no question that if you open up a Siddur and you start reading something that you already read 100 times or 1,000 times, but you insist on reading it inside, you will experience, you will see, hey, this is something really significant. Just to read it again inside. There's something much more real to it than just saying it by heart. To be just, to be yotzei. I did my duty. With this approach, we are guaranteed to have a new inspiration every time that we come to learn, to daven, to anything. Like you mentioned many times. That when you wake up in the morning, you have to say, in other words, you have to realize that the neshama has just now been refreshed and has been returned to me. It's not a natural phenomenon. The neshama came back. I woke up because the Eibishter restored the neshama to me. It's a new beginning. It's a new life. If a person realizes this and recognizes this, every day really becomes is a novel experience. Just to get up, just like looking at the spring day. Just to rise up, to be able to say Moedani, be able to start the day again, is like a new beginning. And it's not like a new beginning, it is in fact a new beginning. This is how Eden live. This is how the Torah prescribes for us to live. We do not take ribis. You know what I'm saying? We not take ribis. We're not basing our life on that which I did yesterday. We start all over again and recreate it again. And this is how the growth pattern of a person goes on, continues. This is how you grow. If you're going to just repeat what you did yesterday 100 times, if you're going to repeat it, it's nothing. It's insignificant. If you're going to learn it 100 times, oh, that's great. That's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. It's a completely different understanding and different level of familiarity and depth and clarity. So this is essentially the message, the significance. It's a very simple mitzvah, right? Ribis. And according to the way the Rebbe explains it, we have such a profound teaching from this. Every time that we come to do something, and we realize that we are doing it on the basis that I did it yesterday, or the day before, stop. Rethink it, and start all over again. there's an interesting principle. Now, the Rebbe Rashab, you know the Rebbe Rashab, right? The previous year's father. He had a principle. He used to travel a lot, and he would visit various communities. And in most communities, most places where he traveled, he wouldn't let them know who he is or anything. He just went incognito. But sometimes they would find out, and they wanted to give him an aliyah, and they would give him maftir. So it happened. At one time they gave him maftir, he didn't expect it. So he asked to be excused. He went into his room, and he reviewed the maftir, and then came out and said. Now the Rebbe said that it is common knowledge. You didn't have that privilege, but this was common knowledge. Boys in yeshiva, at the time by bar mitzvah, you can say any maftir without preparation. This was common knowledge. Huh? Haftorah. You can say any haftorah without preparation. I remember when I was a boy bar mitzvah, so among the boys it was a challenge that the day of when you're going to have your haftarah, you should not look at them after. It should, this is like a challenge. Okay, the challenge. Well, this was common knowledge. I mean, this is nothing. I said you didn't have that opportunity. But once you learn it, you can say haftarah without having to. The Rebbe wouldn't say it. He was called up, and people were waiting. He wouldn't say the haftarah without looking it over. Now we understand why. Because if you say it without looking it over, on what basis are you saying it? On the basis that you said it yesterday, or a year ago. That's not valuable. That's not valid. What's the point? You have to bring to bear your intent, your understanding now. You have to prepare it. Everything that a person does in Avodas Hashem has to be prepared intentionally for this time, for this duty. Because that is when it becomes a real accomplishment. So I'm hoping that this reflection will give us all a sense of encouragement and of value of everything that we do. Every time we say Ashrei, we open the Siddur and we say Ashrei and we challenge ourselves to read it inside every word. And guaranteed you will see something that you didn't see before. Besides, that there are many mistakes that we repetitively have inserted into our memory, and it's not the worst thing to clear out all of those mistakes by reading it inside. Yeah, that's besides the point. But that's the very reality of reading it, of actively creating it, is extremely important, individually and on universal basis and so forth. The Rebbe should help that each one of us should be encouraged, should get this inspiration to be on a constant active mode in Avodas Hashem. Not on the ribis, not on letting things happen by themselves. Active mode, create everything anew. Every moment, every day, every week, every time that you come to it, it's to recreate it.
Rabbi, it's possible, okay, so you cannot take the 3 weeks, but like, if you say, okay, I give you, for example, like $1,000. I borrow you $1,000. So you give me back $1,100 back. You know?
You lend me $100, and I give you back $1,100.
$1,200. Yeah,
Right.
So it's still like,
That is really forbidden, Torah. There are different ways that Chachamim have designed to do it. There are what's called the heter iske. But just straight out, I'll give you 1,000, you give me 1,100. That is very strictly forbidden.
yeah, but what is point like if I mean financial institute like banks, they don't give like loan without any levies, but they don't make it any money. Some of it, like point like that.
Right. So the banks, the Jewish banks, I mean, the banks that I dealt with, they had what's called a heter iske. It's called a heter iske. Heter iske, this is a form that the Chacham have designed that the condition of the loan is such that lets the lender be a partner with you. Let's say you borrow money. Let's say you borrow money to build a house.
Okay.
You borrow $100,000.
Okay.
You invest it in your house, and now the house that you build, you invested $100,000, but it's worth $200,000.
Okay.
But once it's built, it's worth much more,
Right.
right? So the bank is a partner in the benefit, in the profit of your house, not in the money. That's the deal that you make. That I'm a partner with your investment.
Yes, but if, example, like in situation like that, so, and one time you need to return money, right?
What?
One time you need to return money,
Yeah, sure.
okay? And example, like you don't have enough money to return, so you will be lost your house, look like, right?
Right. You lost a house because I'm saying the way the heter iske is set up is, if the heter iske is like this: if I give you $1,000 to build a house, so the deal that we make between us is like this: $500 I'm letting you, and now $500 is mine in the investment.
Okay,
You understand?
right, yeah.
So if you can't, and all of this money was invested into the house.
Right.
So if you cannot return to me the $500, I take the whole house because it's my house. It's my money that built the house. You understand
So
this?
It's look like so I just bank give you money to the house, and if you don't have still not your house if you don't return money, right?
That's right.
So you just
It's half yours and half mine. That's it's a loan. But if you don't pay up the loan, so then I take the house for my half.
Robert, for the non-Jew, I think it's a commandment to take.
Right.
I just wonder how it's done. Is there some difference in the explanation of how is it explained?
You see, the difference is this. To lend money to a Yidden is obligatory, is a mitzvah. You understand? And if you claim interest, then you're claiming interest from the mitzvah. For nothing. To lend money to a goy is not a mitzvah. You're supporting him. He has to pay you for supporting him. There is even an opinion, because Moses laloch is sashich, or lachicha lo sashich, that the goy you should take ribis. So some opinions hold, and the Rambam holds, that it's a mitzvah to take ribis. Some say it's not a mitzvah, that it's allowed. Some say it's a mitzvah. Because especially, all kinds of different goyim. If a goy is a shomer, it keeps the 7 mitzvahs, it's a different halach. Yeah, but it has 7 mitzvahs, and then it's a different thing. Then you're obligated to support him. Huh?
It's in our parsha. Yerba Tashav v'chayemoch.
That's right, yeah.
It's only in Israel.
Huh?
It's only in Israel, or is it everywhere?
It's everywhere except the principle of 7 mitzvahs, the whole a Toshav. Ger Toshav exists only in the time of Beis Hamikdash. The whole din of Ger Toshav, I mean, it's a very good thing for them to keep the 7 mitzvahs, but the halachic demarcation of a Ger Toshav, today there could be Gerim only a Ger Tzedek, what's called a Ger all the way. A Ger Toshav doesn't have a din today of a Ger Toshav. Not here and not in Eretz Yisrael.
Rabbi, if you have like a pharmacy, so you have a store.
Yeah.
If you're in a store, you're Jewish, you're selling stuff, and a Jew comes to you and says, "I'm sorry, I don't have money right now. Can I owe you money?" And you say only on like, can you give him like a condition only on if like since you're not giving me the money now, can you have to give me an extra $1 next time or something like that? Are you allowed to do that or no?
I'm saying, principally you're not allowed to do that.
Even if it's a business.
I'm saying, unless the business is set up, you have to go to a Rav, and the Rav sets it up in a way that it becomes permissible. You understand the conditions, like let's call the heter iska. What the conditions are that how you agree with him to let him owe you the money and then take. Typically, all Jewish businesses like whatever in Crown Heights and those, they take produce on credit. Nobody ever takes rabies.
They were charged on the prices before the release.
Not really, because I know many people. I understand the job, but I just want to tell you, I know somebody very specifically, two businesses, one small business and one large business. They were so kind, and they would give people, especially in the food business, somebody needs food. What are you going to do? They would give it to them on credit, and they didn't collect, and they had to fold out the business. I know of 2 businesses that had to fold because of that. So you have to be a little bit a businessman also, a little bit strong, but it's not easy. Not easy.
The only business that has that heter is what's an iska?
Iskim is a business transaction.
Only a permissible business that has the Rav's.
The Rabbi has to tell you what the conditions are, how to set it up.
But a Jew can't just.
I used to, in the bank, when I used to bank in an Israeli bank in Manhattan, so I asked them, do you have a heter iski? Because how else? So he showed me they had a heter iski.
What about when you're borrowing from a non-Jew?
Excuse me?
There's like a man. I thought you're not supposed to borrow from someone to take loans from a non-Jew.
For a non-Jew? No, why not?
Because they're benefiting for you.
No, you can take loans from a non-Jew.
You can take it and go to the bank.
Not true. You can take it and give back. Yeah, there's always we have to. The Torah says you have to be honest with them. No, it's not allowed. There, there's a double jeopardy because number one, you lied, and number two, you make a chil Hashem. You're not allowed to do that. But no, that's not true. You can borrow money from a goy. The question is when you borrow money from a Yidden and you give him interest, that's a problem. How do you give interest? Because you're not allowed to give interest. That's what the halacha is about.
People even don't say thank you. I learned about this. You're not allowed. I don't
Well, be careful. It's true. Be careful when you borrow money from somebody. If I lend you money and you say thank you, this is like ribis. Yeah.
So you give thank you back.
People are sorry. No, be careful with that because ribis is a very, very strict thing. Like I told you, but the Gemara, it said, mamish, very strict thing. Benefit from something that's not yours. It's a very strict thing. Excuse me?
Yeah, as soon as you give it to them, it's no longer yours. So that
That's right.
Say thanks to you.
That's right. And benefiting from somebody else's difficult
Thank you so much for saying thank you to me.
difficult situation and all that. Anyways, so coming back, we are standing on our feet and we're being proactive. It's called proactive. Everything we do, we're creative. We're not basing ourselves on something that is already there. And this is why every day in the morning we daven all over again. Put on tefillin again, we daven all over again because it's a new world. We don't take it for granted. And you know very well, yesterday you got up in time. Does that mean that today you're going to get up in time? Is that guaranteed? It's guaranteed. Doesn't work like that. Every day you have to make a new effort. But let me tell you something. If you get into that mode, it's a different life. It's a different life. You're always in a creative mode. And you're constantly looking, what else can I do? What more can I do? You grow. It's a completely different thing. You know, there is a very well-known phenomenon, especially in the royal palaces in England. In the royalty, is very wealthy, and they don't have any challenge. They don't have no worries. They don't have to do anything. And many of the princes of the palaces are really good for nothings. Literally, they're really not able to do anything. They only know how to fight and argue, and be offended. Oh, you didn't look at me the right way, and oh, why do I sleep in this room, not in this room? All kinds of stupidities. That's what they know how to do well. But in terms of being productive citizens, very few. Recently there was this wedding. Everybody, I'm sure you heard that. This wedding. He's a good for nothing.
He's a real anti-Semite. He's a real anti-Semite, isn't he?
He's a good for nothing.
Well, yeah, that's Harry supposedly, as if that's separated.
Although he did join the army, technically.
But close enough. Same thing.
You have different rules than everybody else.
It's just with the same family. No, it's just with the same
Anyways, but we do the right thing. Be well, and don't take risks. Do everything, build it, do the right thing. And you will be very, very deeply, profoundly rewarded for it. Much more than it had taken Rebus. What?
On my side.
Okay.